Welcome to the TNG Podcast. Today I'm here with Amanda, and my name is Otilie Carvalho. And what's your last name?
Carvalho, Amanda Carvalho.
Crazy. We have the same last name, Amanda.
How?
I don't know. Now we are family. Even though it doesn't look like it, we do have the same last name.
Yes, we are, in fact, sister-in-laws.
We are, which is a huge blessing to be able to do this with you.
Yeah.
And today we had Damares speak, which is, in fact,
my mother.
And my mother-in-law. It's a family gathering.
It's a family gathering. What a blessing.
Gathering. It is. And she spoke about hospitality.
She did.
And it's funny because I'm Norwegian from Norway and you guys are from Brazil. And the hospitality is so different based on the culture. In Norway, we're looked upon as a very cold culture. In Brazil is a very warm culture. And even the way that I grew up can be very different, and the way that I see hospitality can be very different to the way you see hospitality. And how was it growing up in a house of hospitable
family? Yeah, honestly, it's so interesting how hospitality can be different depending on the culture that you come from. And for me, the way that it was expressed within my household was very much we had guests coming in and out of our house all through my life, all through my childhood and everything. And we always had inviting people to the dinner table. And it made up such a big part of our family culture as well, which was so amazing. And I'm so grateful for that as well.
Yeah. That is so good. And even the way of learning to appreciate one another, learning to invite people in instead of this thing of oh, it's only me and mine and my household and my family, but actually being able to show your kids from such a young age of what it means to open up your house. And even Jesus did that all the time, walking on earth, he was the biggest hospitable person ever, and he was a guest and a host. Yeah,
there's such an interesting thing that my mom was talking about, right? Of Jesus was not only a host and a hospitable person, but he was also a guest, and even what it looks like to be a hospitable guest, almost, where you're being so intentional to invite yourself over, almost because of you are. You're inviting someone over because you want to spend time with them. You want to be intentional with that person, you know? And it's such an interesting dynamic of because it's very different for Norway, right? Because you would never, ever invite yourself over or be...
I would need to be invited by someone, you know? Yeah. And it's funny because even in my family house, in my dad's way of growing up and my mom's way of growing up was also very different. And my mom would definitely say that she grew up in a more of a warm cultured family where people came in and out. But my dad grew up in a very much not as much. Yeah. So even within that, it was so different. But definitely I would have to be invited to get in. When you see Jesus walking in, he's just getting invited and inviting himself. He said to Zacchaeus, I'm going to come to your house tonight, which is so weird for me as a Norwegian, because I would never do that.
It's a really interesting concept to ask to be invited to somewhere. But I think honestly, as I think about it and I ponder on it, it really does show the heart of God. You going out of your way to be hey, I really want to spend time with you. I really want to get to know you more. And I want to, and even when you're at their house, what does it even look like to be a hospitable guest? What does it look like to show up and not just be, I want to be served, but also be how can I serve you even in this conversation that we're having or as I'm coming to your house? How can I maybe help you with your dishes and just love you in your home as well?
Yeah. And it's so, just as you're saying that, Damares is also sharing this story about another woman from our campus, and she was invited to another woman from the campus, you know? And as she came in, she saw that there were dishes in the kitchen, and as the guest, she starts to clean the dishes, and how the host felt so blessed being able to be blessed by the guest, and how, as you were saying, we're supposed to be. How can you be a good guest, How can you be a hospitable guest? And how probably Jesus was that too. And even God must have loved to be hospitable, And I remember reading in the Bible of how the Pharisees were saying how can you dine with sinners and all these things, but he must have loved connecting with them, loved to talk to them about healing, loved to see people come into a fullness of more of who he is when chatting to people. And I feel when you do have dinner around the dinner table, when you are around people, there is a moment of connection. And I can just imagine the amount of connections that we don't even know about from the Bible that Jesus must have had with Zacchaeus. Yeah. And other people from the Bible that we don't even know about, And he must have been so tired. Jesus, it says like he healed everyone in the town or everyone that came to him. Like he must have been so tired and still he was hosted and still he was a good guest and still he was hospitable.
Yeah.
And what does it look like to be able to host people even in our tiredness, even when we don't feel like it, even when we like don't really want to even, you know?
Yeah. And even just as you're saying, like I would even go as far as like Jesus is like one of Jesus's main ministries was seeing people and making people feel seen.
Yeah.
And so as like he dined with the sinners, he dined with like those kinds of people. Like he did that because like he sees people.
Yeah.
And like that's part of like the mission as you're like living a hospitable lifestyle, as you're choosing to love people, as you're choosing to see people, and you're choosing to invite them to your table, invite them to your home, invite them into this like safe space that you're cultivating, right?
Yeah.
Like Jesus's ministry was to see people, and I guess it's like that action of like, he did it after the longest day ever of like healing people and talking to people, discipling people, walking, you're like, and after all of that, he was like, I still want to spend more time with you. I still want to make you feel so much more seen and feel like you belong and blessed and served. Like, it's crazy.
It is. God is like the most sacrificial God.
Yeah.
Like even walking on earth, he was sacrificing. And like Damares said, like being hospitable is a sacrifice because you have to give so much of yourself. And seeing how Jesus was so sacrificial in his time, in his energy, in his emotions, the way he loved people, it was all a sacrifice. And I feel like for me, like today, I can get so hung up with like, oh, my routines. And like, oh yeah, but how can I can't host people. Like I work from these hours to these hours. Or even like have it as an excuse within YWAM of like, oh yeah, but we are on like support. Like how can I like even financially host people, you know?
Yeah.
But even like all these excuses, I feel like kind of reflects even how I see God. Because if I know God for who he is, and if I trust the Lord in all my life and all my ways and all my finances and all the things that shouldn't be like an excuse for not actually being hospitable.
Yeah. Like we're called to be dependent on the Lord in every aspect of our lives, both financially, but also physically, whether we're like so tired and we're like, we don't have the joy or we don't feel like we have what we need to be able to host. It's like we get to make that choice of like, no, God, I'm going to choose to be dependent on you in this situation so that I can love the people that you put in front of me. So like it's a choice, right? Like it's so incredible that we almost get to choose to love the person and to be like, God, I have no excuse. I like you paid it all. You paid the price, Lord. You called us to depend on you both financially and kind of like I'm reminded of the story of the feeding of the 5,000s, this little boy of like when Jesus is there with the crowd of people and he's like, he wants to feed them. And this boy, and it's who God is, but this boy offers up what he has in his hands, and what he has was just like, was it 5 loaves or 2 fish or the other way around?
I think that's
and that's all he had. He just offered up what he had to the Lord, and God used it, and he blessed thousands of people because of like that simple act of obedience of this little boy, you know, and he multiplied what he had. And I think that it's, God uses what we have. And even what the story that Damares was sharing about in the beginning, because she's been a missionary for so long, at the very beginning, she didn't necessarily have the finances to be able to get food for everybody. But she was like, God, I have crackers, so I'm just going to invite people over to have crackers and to choose to have that fellowship time with the people. And because of that, so many people's lives were like, you transformed in some ways, like you're demonstrating the love of God.
It's so true. And even like putting that story of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes into context is like, I think if my Bible knowledge is correct, I think around that time, first of all, Jesus given a long sermon and they'd been there for multiple days. Even before that, Jesus even like returned to be alone because John the Baptist had just been killed. So like, first of all, he's grieving his cousin. He's going to be alone, but then people are following him. But then he gives sermons for multiple days, I think. And then he could have been like, send them home. Like, I can't be bothered. Like, I'm tired. But still, he's like, we will feed them. And it's just that, again, the sacrificial love of God. And even as you said with the little boy that just gave the little thing that he had, it even says in the Bible, like, if I can trust you with small things, I can trust you with big things. And if I can give the little that I have to God, do I then trust him that he would be able to multiply it into bigger things? Or do I become like controlling of like, I only actually have 5 loaves. How can this become more? But then actually trusting, as he trusts me with the small, do I trust him to give him my little? And that dynamic, you know?
Yeah. And one of the other things that I think was so impactful from the message that my mom was sharing was this idea of just how like they will know us by the way that we treat our neighbors, and they will, and so then it's like it's almost our strongest form of evangelism.
Yeah.
It's just is that demonstration.
Yeah. It really is a demonstration of love, because when you go out in the streets and like you often think that people like just don't care, you know, they don't want to talk to you, they're in their busy life, which is natural, and they are. But I remember one time we were in, this must have been like a year ago. We were in Wales and we were touring around. We tour around the country sometimes and we share about the gospel and we visit churches. And we were in Wales September 2024 and we were evangelizing in the streets. And this guy from the church, his name is Otilie, I think, if I remember correctly. He stopped one of these boys just walking past. He had his AirPods in, like he was just committed to walk. So he stopped him and he said, "Hey, can I just share something with you?" He shares, and I'm kind of standing on the side, and I felt that I should like go in and join the conversation, so I did, and I started saying, I started talking about, oh my gosh, you're so loved by God, like there is a heavenly Father, and you can just see his eyes like watering up, and it wasn't much, but you know, but you can like think that this guy is so on his way, he does not want to be interrupted, but actually is in so much need of being seen, and like the hospitable part is actually to stop them and be like, you know what? You are so loved by God. And I feel like, again, it can make so many excuses of like, oh, but if they're busy, why would they be stopped, you know? But actually, like, to love is to be hospitable, and to love, like, that is such a great way of evangelism in a way.
Yeah.
Even just like giving, you know, coffee on the streets, or like sharing meals together or chatting together. And I feel like we can limit it so much. And then actually, I feel like God often calls us to think out of the box. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
And even like, we're not only called to the people that we it's easier to love, but the ones that are unfamiliar, and the strangers that we don't know so well, and to really like be intentional with them. And to even like, like in the middle of your day, like to be willing to be interrupted for the sake of hospitality.
Which is so like weird to my mental. In Norway, it's like time, you are on time. You're not sacrificing time for a relationship. Which in Brazil is like, no, if like I have to stop and do something else for the sake of a relationship, I would.
It's the Brazil time.
It's the Brazil time, you know?
You're late for everything, but
it very much is like, in my culture, we don't, the relationship and hospitality, the hospitableness isn't as valued as like the respect coming on time, you know? But actually, like, you never know how much it will impact a person by just stopping and saying, hey, how are you, you know? And I'm willing to sacrifice my time on that. And willing to sacrifice coming late to something because I'm willing to see you and choose to hear how you're doing, instead of having the English, how are you doing? Oh, you good? Great. Me too. Woo. And let's continue walking, you know? Which I was quite shocked about in England when I came here for the first time.
The small talk.
The small talk, oh man. But like, you never like actually stop and like, how are you actually doing, you know? And often some people just need that.
And being present and being like so wholly and fully present in that moment.
And being willing to hear.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you ask it and then people actually answer and you're like, oh, I wasn't actually ready to prepare to hear anything of what you just said. But it is about hearing people, hearing their heart. And that is also just about inviting them to hear how they're doing, you know?
And it's like a heart posture, right? That we have to constantly be in. You're like, yes, God, I'm willing to be hospitable, to be open to what you're saying in each moment, and constantly choosing to be willing to be interrupted, to be willing to see, and to change your routine and your rhythms, and structures almost as well.
And it's crazy because you say all the time, like, love is a choice, or we, at least in Christianity, we say that, you know, but also to be hospitable is also a choice, because you really have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to like prepare. At least I would like start washing the place up, you know, cleaning, making sure it looks nice. Like, it is a sacrificial thing, and it is a choice, and it doesn't always come easy. But like, it is a choice to love, and it's a choice to be hospitable, and you never know like how it's going to impact a person. Yeah. And I feel like in today's society, we're so busy with everything. Busy. Like, our schedules are filled with everything. And maybe sometimes we really just have to stop up and be like, have I actually just asked someone how they're doing? And like, have like this heart check of like, have I actually like stopped up and even wondered how I am doing, or how my sister is doing? Or am I so busy in my calendar and so busy in my day to day that I forget that the people around me, you know?
Yeah.
And forgetting people around you can be more painful and more like a worse long term, you know?
Yeah, honestly. And I guess this is just like, there's so much to what you're saying, and it's so important. It's so important to take the time, and it's almost like Godspeed, kind of like slowing down the pace of your life to see the people around you, to see what's happening around you.
Even like when I go to the store or take a bus or even on the train, I am like fully unplugged. Like I am like plugged in, AirPods, listening to music. I'm not even aware. But often, sometimes God calls us to be aware, you know? I remember this was in Norway, from in the south. I was walking to the store, and I was going to buy something. I can't remember, but I walked past this woman. She was sitting outside and she was begging for money. And I walked past her, didn't even think about it, bought what I needed to buy, bought some bananas and some blueberries, I think. Came out. As I walked out, I felt the Lord say, like, give her your food. And I was like, I just bought this. Like, man, this was for me, you know? And it was this like, okay, you know, but I had during that time as well, I had a sense from the Lord that I was filling myself with so much noise and music. And even if it's in worship, it's good, but I'm still filling my ears with so much noise. And it makes me unable to hear God sometimes, because I'm constantly blocking, you know, if I'm constantly putting stuff in my ears, like how can I hear him, you know? And I had felt that I shouldn't listen to anything when I walked down to the store that day. And I walked out, I felt that he told me to give my food away. I gave my food away. And I said, God loves you. And she was like, thank you. You know, and it's a simple act of obedience, but also like the simple act of like being available for the Lord to speak. Yeah. Because when I am constantly like filling my brain with music, filling myself with podcasts, or like not even like putting myself in a position of being used, how can I ever be used? You know, because I'm constantly like, I'm not even giving God the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I feel like today we're constantly filling ourselves, like we're addicted to sound, addicted to music, addicted to constantly hearing things having things in our ears. And what does it look like to actually use this as an opportunity to be hospitable to people you don't know, as an act of evangelism?
Yeah. And I think it's the intentionality of that too. Honestly, I think I just keep coming back to the intentionality. Like it always comes down to the choice. Like you have to choose to make space for God to be able to speak to you in those moments as you go in the mundane, in the day-to-day moments. And you got to make choice. It's a choice, and you got to be intentional to make space in your schedule to invite people over and to for the people around you, you know?
Yeah. Your mom said, oh my God, hospitality. Oh, my English is to invite people into belonging.
Oh, yes.
And it's just like, it is this sense of like, you belong here. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Like, you belong here. And how am I using this in my day to day? How am I acting on this? And maybe that's just a challenge to both of us.
Yeah.
Definitely for me, of how am I in my day? It could be as easy as buying someone their coffee. Yeah. You know, or buying someone their groceries, or paying for their fuel, you know. It can be so easy. It doesn't have to be a 3-course meal. It can be so easy as blessing someone, you know?
Yeah. The making space to invite other people into belonging.
Yeah.
And like what that actually looks like.
Yeah. Nice. So
and what can I do now with what I have?
Yeah. It's so good. I definitely think that's something I have to put into my life. And like actively like put it into my schedule, you know? I said last time as well with Colin, that like sometimes I have to really choose and like look over my schedule. Like, do I actually put servanthood into my schedule, or do I just go on beyond my day and not even think about things? And maybe God really wants to teach us something about hospitality.
Yeah, and even prioritizing that in our lives. Mm-hmm. And and prioritizing that in the beginning of my day and in the beginning of my month. Yeah, you know.
Exactly. No, I think it's good. I love this.
I love it.
This is so good, man. I really also want to just challenge you, if you're listening to this, like, how are you being hospitable in your day-to-day? How are you putting this into your schedule? Or maybe not even into the schedule. Maybe it's just to ask God if there's one person you're supposed to bless or invite home for dinner. If there's one person you're supposed to see extra this week. I think it'll make a huge change. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Wow. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Amen.